ConductorPro, audio editing, mixing, and muxing. From single-track animated shows to multiple languages and multi-track editing, ConductorPro now provides full audio editing and mixdown without the use of external software editors. Learn these basic concepts for creating and editing your shows, as well as how to export and assign tracks and levels to external device deployments. It is assumed that you have already viewed all basic ConductorPro navigation tutorials and have local audio files ready for editing while following along with this tutorial. Polyphony, extended media server audio operations, and the ProComander LTC devices are addressed in additional videos.
In this video, we're going to look at how to assign that multi-channel audio to the outputs of the LX, as well as some basic audio editing principles. First, let's go onto the Audio tab. I've got everything else folded up, but I have a single audio group that is under the ProComander LX. If the audio group or audio tracks are not within the ProComander LX, they will not export to the SD card. Please make sure that the audio folder or the tracks themselves are listed underneath the ProComander. As I expand these tracks, we notice that they're all roughly the same length. They contain different stereo data, so presumably each one would be 2 channels. As I see here on tracks 7 and 8, I'm muted, and I have the label of track 004. For this, I'm on tracks 5 and 6. I've got that mixed to a few different channels, and in here I've got this also mixed to a few different channels. So let's take a look at this and see how this actually lays out. Again, under the Audio tab, any of these files can be brought in to any of the tracks either as mono, stereo, or multi-channel waves. For example, all of these files could be brought in as a single wave file that had up to 6 or 8 channels, and those files assigned through the muxer configuration. This input or output will expand or contract based on the number of files on the input side of the equation. Most people, however, do not have the ability to export a multi-channel wave very easily, so they prefer to just work within stereo or mono files. Let's take a look at tracks 7 and 8. Looking at tracks 7 and 8, if I click on the header, I'll notice that on my ProComander this is assigned channel 1, which is the left channel, to output 7 on the ProComander. Input 2, or the right channel, assigned to output 8 on the ProComander. This is a stereo pair beginning with channel 7 and ending in channel 8. With the ProComander PHX and the ProComander LX, the basic assumption is that a stereo pair will always be played at the same time. The PHX does allow for some additional routing, and there is additional training on the ProComander HX. However, for most devices, it is a single stereo pair that can be played concurrently on one of the stereo pair channels. The ProComander LX therefore has 8 stereo pairs that can play concurrently. Within Conductor, however, I am able to page through any number of these tracks and see how they export to the ProComander. This means that channels 5 and 6, which is track 3, is exporting not only to 5 and 6, but also mixing in on channels 1 and 2. A lot of times this is done for stereo reinforcement or for a mono track throughout the facility. If I right-click on the track, you'll notice some of the options that are available. One is I can dump the audio. If I do this, it gives me the option to save out a WAV file with any of the edits that I've performed within the track. Why would you want to do this? Well, perhaps you're on site and find a bunch of mistakes with the audio, need to edit those within the timeline as we'll see here in a moment, but export that reference out to another professional working on the project. Dump audio gives you that ability. You could also clone the track, delete the track, put into a group, which we already have, clone without content. Why we would do this would be, of course, the muxer configuration or settings, copy any of the points for volume or level, cut the points, select all the points, delete, or of course, any of our points of scale, shift, and delete. If we put the cursor halfway through the track and we right-click, we're also able to cut the audio at current time. So now I've split this into 2 clips. Once they're split, I can grab from the left-hand side and expand and contract all the way back to the beginning of that. It is non-destructive. So I can go all the way back to the very beginning, and that's at 00, and then of course we were already at the end. Conversely, what's left over, I can expand out and go back to that beginning set. I'm going to revert a number of times to get me back to a joined track. And here we have the clip as one piece. Anything that is brought into the track will automatically be assigned to the muxer output of 7 and 8 that was set up globally based on the track header. Any edits that we make, any additions we make, or anything else assigned to 7 and 8 will automatically mix down when we export to either AAC or OGG. This also would reflect if we dumped the audio out to an uncompressed wave. If I want to enable the volume envelope editing, I want to roll over what looks like a Wi-Fi or volume signal, and I want to turn that on. Now notice it does lock the track so that the tracks cannot move while I'm editing the audio. At this point, with the tracks locked, I'm able to bring in, as you can see, the volume level based on this dashed line of unity. I can set the actual points, the value, and the percentage that is placed at. Please note that this level editing is somewhat limited compared to the traditional analog editing within the timeline. Only basic functions can be performed in this particular level. Additionally, we'll notice that there are audio levels set up in this timeline. This is showing us the peak levels here because we actually took this level above unity. So we're working here with, let's see, this is 1 and 2, but we are assigned to 1 and 2 on the export, so that makes sense why that would be too high. If that's too high, let's go ahead and move these down. And yeah, that fixed the problem. So I can bring these up. I can select none and just adjust these volume levels for playback as a global level of the actual files that we're working with. This allows us to do some basic mixing, but in general, most of the time you're going to want to actually level these out individually for the ProComander LX. This just gives you some volume control for the ability of adjusting the level outputs. It does not currently create points in the track for editing. So far, we've been working with the internal tab in the Conductor Audio Levels window. If we click over to Output, you would normally see a stereo mixdown for the output channels local to your PC. In my machine, I only have 2 audio channels because my audio card only supports stereo. If you look over to the Layout tab and go to the right where it says Audio, we've previously been working in the Resources area that allows us to bring in audio files for the timeline playback. If we go down to Devices, you'll notice that the mixer is set to an internal channel routing of 16. This was done automatically when we imported our ProComander LX, as the ProComander LX has the ability to play back 16 channels of audio concurrently. Below here, you'll see another muxer table that gives you a channel routing ability from inputs channels 1 through 16 to output channels 1 through 16. However, my machine again only supports 2 channels of audio, so I'd want to click this 4 stereo down mix. If you have a audio card capable of multi-channel audio, or an external audio card such as USB, Firewire, ADAT, LightPipe, these can be assigned from the inputs to the outputs of that physical hardware. This would give you the ability to mix and play back in real time on your PC prior to exporting to the ProComander LX device. In some cases, network audio such as AVB and Dante can be utilized, but for the purpose of this example, we're referring to only the local hardware on the PC itself. Below here, a couple other items to point out in regards to audio playback on the PC. 4 stereo down mix should be checked if you're just working with a normal laptop and a normal stereo audio card. However, below there you'll notice that there are some different choices for the audio driver that you'll play back through. For most people, we recommend that Wasabi be chosen. Below here, we also have the ability to select what playback device the audio will route through. Now, this is very critical because this will actually override the Windows configuration for control panel audio playback settings. This means that if I have a Bluetooth audio device, if we have a 1/8 inch stereo, something else plugged into the machine, even if it's using the same audio controller, we need to select what physical connection the audio plays through from this window in Conductor. Again, this does override the Windows control panel. If you plug in headphones, it will still come back through the speakers until you change this to the headphone jack. Additionally, the use Wasabi shared mode is important for virtual machines only. If this is checked, Wasabi shared mode will allow Windows to manage the playback of the resources from Conductor. If you are on native Windows hardware, we highly recommend unchecking the Wasabi shared mode. Additionally, in Control Panel, you should set your output to match the Conductor audio file profile of 16-bit 48K. By disabling this shared mode and setting your audio card to match the settings of ConductorPro, you will find that the real-time synchronization will be highly frame accurate as opposed to the normal situation of shared mode where Windows can occasionally take priority over ConductorPro. Again, we recommend Wasapi and disabling Wasapi shared mode unless you are on a virtual machine or a computer that cannot handle direct access from Conductor to the audio device. Windows should also be set to 16-bit and 48K for the audio properties of the sound card. Let's take a quick look at this. If we go over to the control panel and we go down to sound, you'll notice that I have speakers set up. Under properties and advanced, I'm currently set to 16-bit 44.1. What I'll want to do is go down to 16-bit 48K, allow my applications to take exclusive control of this device, and give exclusive mode applications priority. This relates directly to the Wasapi shared mode, but does not work within a virtual machine. So the settings we have here on the screen are correct for ConductorPro. Just note that a virtual machine such as Parallels cannot take over for the direct application priority support. You will have to do this only on a native Windows PC. However, in any case with Conductor 16-bit 48K and these two checkboxes under Control Panel, Sound, Speaker Properties, and Advanced should be followed for the best synchronization performance. Once again, to recap, there are a few sections you should familiarize yourself with before working with audio in ConductorPro. Under Audio, the Resources tab, and this particular button will allow you to load audio resources into your project. Within the timeline, an audio track or audio group can allow individual tracks of either mono, stereo, or multi-channel WAV files to be edited against each other within the timeline, as well as an export configuration to your ProComander device. Options for this track are available by right-clicking on the header at any time. Again, you can make simple edits within the WAV file in this timeline at any point during your programming process. When finished, there are two muxers that you can address for playback and deployment. The lower muxer under the Audio tab and Devices gives you a way to route the 16 internal channels, or less if your ProComander does not support 16, to the individual outputs on your audio card on your PC. Most users will employ the forced stereo down mix to get the multiple tracks from a ProComander LX down to a stereo output. For deployment to the ProComander, you'll use the upper muxer configuration, where the input from each track is routed individually out to the multiple outputs of the ProComander LX or PHX or ProComander 2 or ES. The number of outputs up top will directly reflect the number of physical hardware outputs on your ProComander device. The number of inputs on the left-hand side will reflect the number of tracks within your WAV file on the track itself. Again, mono, stereo, or multi-channel waves are supported. Once you're happy with the audio edits within your timeline and the muxer configuration out to the ProComander, all you have to do is deploy this to get the files onto your ProComander device. You'll make a standard deployment package and add your HFX files accordingly. There is no additional configuration at this step in order to get files from an HFX file assigned accordingly out to play back on the ProComander device when the show is started. With ConductorPro Advanced or Better and any newer hardware device from Weigl, you'll have the choice of exporting an audio file either as an OGG or an AAC. OGG is designed specifically for ProComander ES or ProComander 2 devices where license-free applications are required. We do provide an AAC license with ConductorPro Advanced or Better and any Weigl hardware device purchased within the last few months. If your device is older, you can contact Weigl through faq.weigl.support and request a free upgrade code to enable AAC licensing. We do highly recommend that any shows deployed to a PHX or LX device utilize the AAC format for higher quality and better synchronization. We do support up to 256K for the bitrate, however, Conductor will automatically export at 128. Should you choose to use OGG, or if your license does not support AAC, you may select the quality of the OGG file. Once these settings are configured, all you have to do is hit deploy as normal, and the files will be automatically synchronized and compressed for playback on your ProComander device. No external triggering, setup, or deployment is required. This concludes the training on ConductorPro audio editing, audio mixing, and audio muxing for export to ProComander devices and ProComander LX devices. For more information, please visit faq.weigl.support.